Hey guys, it's Bina, and today I released the Shadow Cascade Bladedancer build guide over on Maxroll. I'm gonna go over how this plays and all the intricacies behind the build, because there's a lot to know about this build. It is not as simple as it seems, and there's a lot of like moving pieces and things to know if you want to understand the build better. So let's go over a map here real quick. We'll go over a map, we'll go over a boss, and yeah, showcase what this build is all about. So here I am in 1000 corruption. This is with an endgame planner. First of all, what you need to know is that this build snapshot, so I'm using the snapshotting, which is not something that you can move away from. It is not something that you can play around, without, because it's just how Shadow Cascade works when you are proccing it off of other skills. So you are proccing it off of shift. You are also proccing it off of synchronized strikes. When you use it, your shadows will get consumed and use Shadow Cascade. So all of these procs remember the last Shadow Cascade that you have manually cast. So for this, there are some nodes in Shadow Cascade, which are damage per shadow here and damage per shadow here with an exact number of shadows. You want to have exactly 4 shadows, and for this you will cast synchronized strikes that will spawn 4 shadows, and then you manually use Shadow Cascade once. So now the game remembers, okay, the last time I used Shadow Cascade, it was with 4 shadows, and now all of your subsequent procs are going to be using that specific snapshot. The build is built around 4 shadows. Even if EHG eventually manages to change this to be dynamically updated as you are proccing your shadows like this, this build should not change. There's one thing that might change, is that when you are using shift, it actually spawns an extra shadow. So I don't know if when it is adjusted to dynamically update, if that's gonna change. But this skill has been like this since it got introduced, even in early access. So I don't think this is gonna change anytime soon. Just snapshot your shadows once, boom. But we are not abusing any other extra shadows here in this build, which you potentially could for a little bit of extra damage. That is not what I'm doing. All right, so let's go over the mapping here. Essentially, this mapping, you can see that we have shift, synchronized strikes, and dancing strikes here. So this build will take will take advantage of the skilled queuing priority system in Last Epoch, which is the order of your skill on your action bar take priority from left to right. So if you hold down multiple buttons at once, it will try always to use the leftmost skill on your action bar in priority. So for this build, we are holding down shift, sync strike, and dancing strikes. That will make it so that we use shift and sync strike on cooldown, and then we are using dancing strikes to fill out the downtime of all of the other skills, right? So that will make sure that we are always proccing our Shadow Cascade with shift, always proccing some more Shadow Cascade with sync strikes as well, and then dancing strike gives us a lot of buffs, and both defensively and offensively. So this is pretty much the mapping. I just wanted to go over like a quick map to show you guys. Extremely good AoE. Very easy to play because it is just holding down 3 buttons. But it is quite difficult to be super precise with your movement, since all of your skills actually move you. All of your attacking skills move you. You have shift, you have sync strike that moves you, and dancing strikes moves you too. So holding all 3 of them, you might feel like you don't have too much control over your character, but you get used to it quite quickly. And to be honest, we have so much damage that it doesn't really, it doesn't really matter. The main thing for this build is, okay, we'll go over the bossing, and then we'll talk about the itemization and everything else. All right, let's kill this thing. Boom, boom. Like so. And let's see the damage here. And that's it. It's literally a 2-shot, no? Very, very high damage potential on this build. Extremely high damage potential. I've seen some people kill Uber in less than 2 minutes with this. This is just completely nuts. Let's go see the damage against Uber here. This is, again, I'm going to repeat, with the endgame planner. You can get more damage than this, but yeah, this is what it is with endgame planner. Let's go check out Uber Aberoth. Uber Aberoth, this is not the best build to clear it because, again, you are kind of like moving all the time with every one of your abilities. So it might be kind of difficult to actually control your character. Oh, I think I don't have the snapshot here. So let's just make sure that we have snapshotted. You should only have to do this once, to be honest. And then never use Shadow Cascade manually again. So I don't expect to kill this here since this would require actually me practicing the build and the fight a bit more on this specific build. But for people who are used to this build, I've seen some kills with this, no problem. And again, you would probably go in here with more than an endgame planner, right? But you got like a cleanse. Okay, well, let's just show you a little bit of the damage. You got a cleanse though on this fight with shift. So every time that you shift, you will cleanse the frailty of Aberoth, which is very, very nice. But that is about what the build is in general in terms of gameplay. Now let's go over the build guide without further ado. So I just released this yesterday, or rather, yeah, yesterday night or this morning. It was quite late at night. So this is a low-life setup that requires Architects of Astral Blood. This is a primordial unique that makes it so that you get missing health gain as a ward per second. So it is a low-life item. And it also gives you a maximum health apply as a ward limit. What this does, okay, so is you cannot go over like a certain percentage of your maximum health, but it also gives you maximum health gain as ward decay threshold, which makes it very easy to get to that limit without stacking any ward retention whatsoever. So only with this and a roll of 20% of tier 7 current health loss per second on your gloves, you will reach your ward limit and you won't have to invest at all into ward retention. This makes it very, very strong for low life builds, especially on Bladedancer, since this on Bladedancer it's very hard to stack int, right? You're not stacking int, but you can make use of Death's Door in the passive tree of the Bladedancer, which gives you less damage taken at low health. So you're making use of this damage reduction here very, very efficiently. This primordial body armor primarily fixes all of our problems in terms of recovery, in terms of tankiness. It's very, very strong. And I want to do more builds with this primordial unique as well. It just fits very well on Bladedancer, which was quite hard to like get tanky enough to feel good before. All right, so now that this is out of the way, we require this, and we're gonna go over the skills here. So, first of all, let's talk about the Shadow Cascade snapshot, which I've already talked about, but there is a disclaimer here explaining in detail in written form how it works and how to use it properly. So there's that one. Again, use Sing Strike, Shadow Cascade manually, and then whenever you proc Shadow Cascade, it will remember the last snapshot. And also there's another bug in the build, which is concentration. Concentration does not work on Bladedancer specifically. So that is why we are not maxing out this node here, which would give us more damage, up to 16%. So once this is fixed, it's only a Bladedancer bug. It works perfectly fine on Falconer, works perfectly fine on Marksman, but Bladedancer for some reason doesn't work. So yeah, so that is it. That is that. Let's talk about the pros and cons here. High mobility. Again, all of your skills are mobility skills, and shift gives you 50% more extra movement speed after using it. So you're going to feel very, very fast on Rogue. Excellent single target. Versatile defensive tools. You can swap out decoy for something else. Here you got like an extra skill slot, which can use any skill on spec if you do want it. And awesome feels and visual. The cons require a specific unique, the Architect of Astral Blood. Positioning can be tricky because all of your skills move you. Occasional mana management. If you just sit there and only hold down all 3 buttons forever, eventually you might run out of mana. But for the most part, in actual gameplay, you might have like a moment or two where you're just like evading something, you know, evading an attack, and then you shift the wands and then you regain all your mana back basically instantly. So it's somewhat of a con I had to find. And Shadow Cascade is snapshot reliant. This is something you have to remember and do it every time that you play it once you start playing it. Now, let's talk about Shadow Cascade. The most important ones is we are grabbing all of the multipliers in here. The damage per shadow. We want exactly 4 shadows to get the extra damage. You're also scaling this damage with a sword and a dagger. So that is why we're using Eye of Reen and Trader's Tongue. We're going to go over the gearing afterwards. But sword and dagger gives you multipliers. More damage, but also no longer scales with attack speed. This just means like the animation does not scale with attack speed. It does not mean that it doesn't work with leverage momentum, which gives us more damage per 1% melee attack speed that you have. And then this is the reason why we're going to be stacking a lot of melee attack speed on our gear. Like for example, Falcon Fist Falcon Fist on its base affixes has increased melee attack speed. Trader's Tongue, we're going to put melee attack speed on it. So melee attack speed is very, very good. And we want to see there's some stuff in the passive as well with like Flow, which gives us a melee attack speed buff. All of this melee attack speed is going to translate to more damage for Shadow Cascade. We are also recovering mana per shadow here. So when we use it, it consumes the shadows, and then this will give us extra mana. Very, very important because mana is going to be a main limiting factor in how much we can spam all of our skills, like Sync Strike, which costs a lot of mana. So getting as much mana as possible is a top priority. Next, we're going to go in Synchronized Strike. Synchronized Strike is the skill that we're going to be spamming. It's on a cooldown. So we are trying to stack as much cooldown recovery speed as possible to be able to spam Synchronized Strikes as much as possible, as well as shift, right? So cooldown is kind of like damage, and this is one of the reasons why we are going for Shattered Chains and our boots with cooldown recovery speed at tier 7, because this is going to be one of our main damage multipliers. Make sure to grab the mana efficiency on Dancing Strikes, again, this skill costs a crap ton of mana, and then we're getting +2 shadows. This one is mandatory to get 4 shadows to snapshot properly. If you're playing this like very early game, like if for some reason you're using this to level up, because you technically could, maybe you don't want to put this point in here because it's gonna cost too much mana. But keep in mind that if you're using Shadow Cascade, put the correct amount of points here to snapshot properly with the number of shadows, right? If you don't have this, it's gonna be 2 shadows. If you have it, it's 4 shadows. This setup maximizes damage. We are also going for the Wave of Darkness node, which makes our shadows use Shadow Cascade on use rather than being consumed. So as we spam multiple Synchronized Strikes in succession, they will always use Shadow Cascade. And then we're grabbing some Physical Shred and 1 point in Crimson Storm. The Crimson Shroud duration from this node here, which is a buff that reduces damage taken from damage over time. The Crimson Shroud duration is not 1 second. I believe it's 4 seconds, but like the extra points that you put in here gives you extra stacks and not extra duration. So this seems to be a tooltip bug. I mentioned it in the additional skill tips. This one did not merit a disclaimer, but keep in mind this is a quote-unquote bug or tooltip error in here. It is the amount of stacks and not the duration. For Umbral Blades, one thing to note, do not put Umbral Blades in your action bar. You don't need it and you never want to use it. You are going to be using Umbral Blades by recalling them with Shift. So when you recall them with Shift, they will give you mana. So this is the most important thing that we want from Umbral Blades. We also have whenever one of your shadow expire, they leave behind an Umbral Blade. So because you're going to be spawning many shadows with Sync Strikes, you will get a lot of blades, and all of those blades translate to mana recovery. It's a flat amount per blade, has no limit. So this is going to be one main way of recovering mana for this build. The other points that we put in here, like some extra hits, you know, Shadow Daggers, some Pierce chance. We're going to go for the Pierce for the Chill and Bleed and Slow chance. So Chill and Slow, recover mana, and we try to apply as many hits as possible to apply this to all of the monsters. So that's pretty much what we're getting with Umbral Blades. Shift is your main movement skills. It will also trigger Shadow Cascade when you use it. It gives you some nice buffs with movement speed. It recovers mana on low life. It recovers 48 mana on use. This is amazing. And this makes it so that using Shadow Cascade like this and fixing mana recovery is so much better on low life. And this just synergizes very, very well with our low life setup with Architect of the Astral Blood. You are invulnerable while shifting. This 1 point in elusive is excellent to give you dodge rating per dex. We have a fair amount of dexterity on the build, and 20 flat dodge is insane. So per point of dexterity, only 1 point here will make a huge difference. Then we're going for the guaranteed cleanse. We do pat through some healing nodes here. They don't really matter that much. You will heal a tiny bit when you use shift, but you will stay very low on life, and then you will lose some missing health per second also. So this does not matter too much. We grab the cleanse because it's so good to not have to think about, oh, I need to cleanse my bleeds that I'm getting. I need to cleanse my poison. I need to cleanse Flare of Aberoth. So this is going to be just amazing for this. And then this node is only here for the distance, the reduction in distance, so you have more control over your character. But it is not mandatory. You can feel free to use these points anywhere else because the damage does not matter, but the distance feels nice. We are also using Unseen Strike to get the melee damage along the path. This will make it a little bit easier to stack. We're going to see a little bit later. But our Stacks of Perfection, which is a buff that gets stacked on melee hits. So this adds an extra hit as well. Now for Dancing Strikes, okay, there is two options here. Some people don't like Dancing Strikes because of how it plays, because of how it moves you like this, and they just don't really enjoy the playstyle. I will offer two setups on this build. One is going to be Dancing Strikes, and one is going to be Smoke Bomb. But keep in mind, if you're using Smoke Bomb, you are losing about 50% of the damage. So this means that Dancing Strikes is about just about double the damage. So that is why I included Dancing Strikes as the main variant, as it is the best option to use between the two. But there are many people that don't like using Dancing Strikes and prefer Smoke Bomb instead. So I have included another setup here if you want to. That being said, Dancing Strikes has insane damage buffs, mainly coming from Rhythm, which gives you global more damage, and also gets further improved by Perfect Choreography. And then you'll also get global crit multi per stack of Rhythm. So you can get up to 10 stacks, which grants you more damage and crit multi. And you are getting a Graceful Arena, which gives you more damage in the arena and less damage taken, which is doubled for you. So this is 20% less damage taken and 20% more damage in the arena. It is absolutely amazing. It's just absolutely crazy. This is why this skill improves your damage so much. And all you have to do for this is hold 3 buttons, right? You're holding Shift, Sing Strike, and Dancing Strikes, and they all get used in succession. They will prioritize using Shift and Sing Strike, and then Dancing Strike will get used in between all of your cooldowns automatically, proccing the arena, giving you all the amazing buffs. It is just, yeah. One thing to note is there are a few... I've encountered a few bugs playing this build in online mode. Mainly with Shift, Sing Strike, and Dancing Strikes. So all 3 of these skills, you get stuck. So keep this in mind, right? If you are especially... I was playing this build in hardcore, and I was getting stuck in terrain. I was getting stuck, especially in beast zones. So just keep this in mind while you are playing it. And then you can't move at all if you get stuck. You can't evade. I had to like leave game and come back. If you can deal with this might be fine, but keep this in mind, right? So Dancing Strike gives you insane damage buffs, but also defensive buffs as well. It gives you dodge rating, flat and percentage dodge, and less damage over time taken. If you want to, you can also spec points into close combat for less distance when you are using it, but I felt like this wasn't really necessary. Now, if you go with the Smoke Bomb setup, Smoke Bomb gives you a few things. For damage, it will give you flat melee damage as long as you stay inside of the cloud, and this damage will stack. It also gives you another cleanse and a Silver Shroud. So Silver Shroud lets you dodge the next attack. It guarantees a dodge on the next attack. So this one is very, very good. Also gives you a burst of ward. So as you dodge, you'll refill all of your ward. And also gives you some Dusk Shroud frequency. As you stay in the cloud, you will get Dusk Shrouds, which gives you Glancing Blow and dodge chance. So this is the main thing that you go for with Smoke Bomb. Again, if you prefer this playstyle, you do lose about 50% of your damage, but that is an option. Here, I just mentioned again the snapshot about Shadow Cascade. Oh, I forgot to mention, but another really nice thing about Dancing Strikes is that every single one of these strikes, right, counts as a unique skill for perfection. Not perfection, but flow. So you gain a stack of flow whenever you use a unique skill, and every stack of flow will give you 5% melee attack speed, which we saw earlier gives you more damage because of leverage momentum in Shadow Cascade. So excellent. Something that is not obvious is that Dancing Strikes grants you all unique skills usage for those. So here I talk about this bug as well. Synchronized Strikes mana. All right, we already talked about all of this. The passive is fairly straightforward. We are going for Death's Door, and make sure that you are capped crit for All In. All In makes you deal less damage with non-critical hits, so it's pretty important to be capped crit on this build. Again, I mentioned a bit earlier that concentration is bugged, so we are not maxing this one out. Let's go over a little bit of the passives here. So flat damage, attack speed, just amazing for the build. You need Twin Blade to dual wield, grabbing some less damage taken while moving with evasion, and then extra haste on hit and damage per movement speed on agility. Again, shift gives you 50% movement speed, kind of amazing. On the Bladedancer tree, we're going to movement speed. We're maxing out rhythm stacks, as we talked about for Dancing Strikes. We're grabbing all of the flat melee physical damage, which we are scaling. And then we are maxing out in the Veil of Night for increased melee attack speed and Dusk Shroud chance. So as you hit enemies with your melee attacks, you will gain some Dusk Shrouds, and this will increase the amount of glancing blow chance that you get, and more dodge as well. 5 points into Flash of Steel to get the melee attack speed bonus, and then more or less points into Weapons of Choice. Since we're using a sword and a dagger, this gives us crit chance. And so depending on your rolls that you have on your Trader's Tongue, which when used in the offhand gives you crit, and Peak of the Mountain, which gives you percentage increased crit chance, depending on your rolls of those two items, you might have to invest more or less points into Weapons of Choice. And as you can see, when you get to the Aspirational Planner, which use Shattered Worlds, now you can actually respec these points and put them into something else. But for now, in this one, we need 2 points. And then I go into maxing out the Perfection stack and Confidence. So Perfection will stack up to 10, so long as we don't get hit. And then we get Armor and Dodge per stack of Perfection. So as we don't get hit, we get more and more and more dodge. And then if we do get hit, we want to refill those very quickly. But this refills as you are attacking with your melee attacks, and we have so many of them that Perfection stacks get refilled quickly. But feel free, if you want to invest more into some damage nodes to remove this. But I feel like this is excellent, granting us a lot of armor for survivability, and dodge as one of our main ways of mitigating damage is going to be dodge. 3 points in Critical Eye. This gives us critical avoidance at the 3-point threshold. This is massively important because we are also grabbing the Blessing for critical strike avoidance. With a perfect roll here, you will get exactly 100% crit avoidance. So this is crucial to your survivability as well. Spellbreaker gives us frailty chance without any idols whatsoever or any roll on our gear. And also parry chance and mana regen, all good stats for the build. We talked about Death Door at less damage taken, and crit multi at low health, insane damage buff. And all in, all in is for the extra critical strike multiplier, but we deal less damage on our non-crits. Falconer, 5 points for more damage with haste, which should be up at all times. And then we're grabbing the reflection here for concentration, less hit damage taken with concentration. So another one that, you know, most of the time we dodge everything, but when we do get hit, we will most likely have a glancing blow, and we're going to take less damage with concentration, less damage because we are going to be moving, and yeah, it's going to be less damage at low health. So just amazing node here for survivability. We're grabbing some armor shred chance and armor shred effect at 5 point here, pretty important. This build does not have that much armor shred, but with all of the armor shred effect here, it is going to be very, very effective, and you'll be able to reach a very high amount of benefits from armor shred. So a lot of people think armor shred, you need to stack as much of spots as possible, and you know, like getting 600, 700, more than 1,000 stacks of armor shred. Look at this, I'm dealing so much damage. Armor shred has a lot of diminishing returns as you get higher and higher. Usually about 100 stacks, like between 80 and 120 stacks is about the sweet spot for most benefits. So as you get more armor shred effect, you need even less than this. So yeah, this setup actually maximizes most of the benefits from armor shred. And now here I have a little disclaimer about the skill priority system. So when you hold multiple skill at once, like I said, they use the skill in priority from left to right. This is just in written form here. So we're using Sync Strike, Shift and Sync Strike. We're using Sync Strike to create exactly 4 shadows, right? This snapshots the setup, and then you hold 3 buttons, and that's all you do. And you don't use Shadow Cascade manually anymore. And you can throw a decoy to give yourself some breathing room as well, you know, if you need it. Here I talk about the Civil Shroud stacks from Smoke Bomb, which we have already talked about. So now here in the starter variant in the gear section, I use Scissor of Atropos because this is like a very, very easy sword to get super early in the game. There are many other good choices here, but Scissor of Atropos is available super early. This is why I'm using this one on the starting planner. But on the main setup here, you will need Architects of the Astral Blood. Again, this with a tier 7 increased health slam fixes your tankiness all in one item. You will feel amazingly tanky with this, mainly because the missing health gain as ward and the maximum health gain as ward decay threshold, it will make it feel like you actually have like close to 2,000 ward per second, depending on how much health that you have. But between 1,000 and 2,000 ward per second, and this will it will not be diminished by ward retention because your ward decay threshold is so high. So for the first like half of your pool, you will just feel almost invincible, especially good against dots, guys. So yeah, Architect of the Astral Blood alongside your Falcon Fist with a 20% current health loss per second will make it so that you reach a cap very easily and fixes your tankiness. Prioritize getting 13% critical strike chance with your Trader's Tongue. This is the most important stat on this one here. Mainly because it will help you reach crit cap, which is very important, especially with your passive that we talked about earlier, which makes you deal less damage with non-crits. So get a good roll on here. Try to get a good roll on your Peak of the Mountain as well, and then adjust your passive points accordingly. Eye of Reen also, that's another reason why you want to reach crit cap. This gives you so much critical strike multiplier. You're gonna be sitting between like 25 and 30 stacks of Eye of Reen, which is a huge amount of melee critical strike multi, and this is why this is the recommended sword for the build. Now, I'm using Stimage Fate and Shattered Chains. Some other people like to use Siphon of Anguish to apply Doom instead, and then use Army of Skin for the nice, more melee damage to high health. Also has melee attack speed. This is certainly an option. Keep in mind that you will have to use Boulder Fist if you do so, because Siphon of Anguish will leech from Void Damage Legion's health with the Doom, and that is going to mess up your low life setup. So this is like another good setup that you can use, but I decided to go with Stimage Fate and Shadow Chains, being able to use 2 red rings, fixing your resistances, giving you even more damage reduction. So with all of these together, it just makes the build feel way tankier, and way better. And even for softcore, not dying is optimal. You do not want to die pretty much ever. You're not going to be gaining any significant amount of damage from not going like this. So this is why I included this one in the main setup, but I do mention all of these here. So these are pretty easy to farm. You'll farm both of those from Shade of Orbis. One thing to note is that Stymied Fate is a guaranteed drop alongside Siphon of Anguish. So if Shade of Orbis does not drop Siphon, she will drop Stymied Fate and vice versa, or he will drop, okay? Yeah, I don't. So very easy to farm. Shattered Chains, go as far away from the center as possible, and then kill Shade of Orbis. This one actually caps out. The drop rate for this one, I would have to double check on Tongue Clouds, but it caps out before the plus 18 shade. So I don't remember off the top of my head, but go as far as possible and then kill Shade of Orbis to drop the Shattered Chains. Next, we're using Twisted Heart mainly again because it has a great health implicit and strength, which is also armor, which makes it a great stat stick for survivability, and also you can guarantee a slam on it, so you slap crit multi on this. Evolution's End is excellent for the build as well, +2 all skills, 6 all attributes, which help you reach the cap for 180 stats for your red rings, and then also gives you all resistances and movement speed, just amazing overall. So Evolution's End alongside the 2 red rings is great. You could use a Nihilus here, but I feel like Evolution's End is just better, especially to reach the attribute cap for red rings. One thing on this build, the idols. The idols are actually amazing. Physical Pen, melee damage flat, and increased melee damage. This will increase your damage drastically, and so you should try to prioritize getting them if you feel like you are lacking some damage. Very important, very good idol. Of course, fix your res with some of the idols if you can't fix them yet with all of your gear. But when you do, these idols are going to be amazing. Also, I forgot to mention a little bit earlier, but like mana efficiency with Sync Strike is available on idols and also on helmets. So feel free to play around with how much mana efficiency for Sync Strike that you want to play with, depending on your personal playstyle and preferences. But I feel like getting it on the helmet and one idol was sufficient for me. But again, on the aspirational version, I go for even more mana efficient with Sync Strike so that you can spam even longer for longer fights. But yeah, that is the setup that I decided to go for. I've already talked about Grant Survival of Might, which you need a perfect roll to cap your crit avoidance. It's very, very important. Red rings, again, self-explanatory. And then as a chase item, you got Immortal Vise and Shattered Worlds. So both of these are farmed from Uber Aberoth. And then if you can manage to get those, they provide some significant offensive and defensive buffs. Helps you cap your crit chance. 10 all attributes is just amazing. 10% less damage taken is another source of damage reduction. So you're gonna have 10 here, 10, 10. You have some, you have a few in your passives while you are moving, while you are at low health. So even though you're not getting an insane amount of ward, you will have so much damage reduction that is gonna feel so tanky. And all of your recovery is passive. You don't have to do anything to get your recovery back. So this build actually does feel quite tanky when you play it. With the amount of dodge that you have as well, you'll reach extremely high amounts of dodge. So you barely get hit. Passive ward per second is excellent against dots. So it's kind of like a damage reduction for damage over time. And then when you do get hit, you recover extremely fast. So it might look somewhat squishy, but it actually is in actual play. In when you are playing it, feels very tanky because you're not getting hit barely. Here we talk about the build scaling, so you can go through this if you want to. These talk about the damage and defensive stats that I've already talked about. If you click here, you can get the loot filter, which can select the level of strictness. We still have not updated the filters for sounds and everything. As soon as I get, Maxwell was busy with other branches as well, with like Borderlands releasing and stuff like that. So as soon as they have some time, they will update these filters, and I will be able to update the filters with the proper sounds. And I'll do some even further optimization of the filter as well, as I always do. Sometimes you might not notice it, but there are some slight tweaks that I make just to make it even better. But yeah, click the strictness level that you want. You can read all about here, and you can click on this guide to read about what the filter does. So I have a few FAQs that I think I've already talked about. How to snapshot Shadow Cascade, any alternative to Dancing Strikes, what is a skill party system, and why percentage health on Architects of the Astral Blood. So that pretty much covers the guide, guys. I hope you enjoy Shadow Cascade Bladedancer. This was a very, very much requested build guide to put on Maxroll, and I am happy that I got to play it and actually enjoy it. I think it's a very, very fun build. It has extremely high damage potential. It can go all the way through Uber Aberoth, and for some people, it's like their favorite build, you know, like assassin playstyle. Very, very flashy. Hope you like it. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.